everybody. Welcome to the sneak peek at Invoicing Upgrade webinar. My name's Ariel. We're coming to you from San Francisco, so hello to wherever you are in the world. We're just going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek as to what our engineers and everyone's been working on really hard here. And I'm going to let Jeff, our founder and CEO, take it away.
All right. Thanks so much, Ariel. So thanks everyone for coming along. Hopefully it's not too early or late wherever you are. What we're doing today is probably our most impressive sneak peek, certainly one of our most formidable engineering feats that we've been doing behind the scenes here at Accelo for quite a while. And as a result, we've actually got a fair bit of stuff we're going to cover today. Our team's been working really, really hard. It's a little bit like the iceberg situation where you've got a lot of stuff under the water and a little bit peeking at the top. And so during today's session, we're going to take you through what's coming around the corner, what's new. You'll be able to see sort of some of the behind the scenes stuff, some of the administrative tools, that below the waterline gear. And we're going to build up putting things together until we get right to the end of this webinar, just before the Q&A, where we'll actually be showing you how it all comes together. So bear with us. We're pretty excited about this, and based on the feedback we've had so far, we're really confident that you guys will be too. So without any further ado, let's get started. So our agenda today is to first of all give that little bit of background. Where are we? How did we get here? Where are we going? Type of stuff that you get from an introduction, setting that context. Then we're going to cover each of these sections here in terms of a product demo. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of bullet points here, the things that are new in this upgrade. Then we're going to talk about the beta testing and release timetable for this fairly major upgrade. And then we're going to throw it open to Q&A. Now, if you've got any questions during the webinar, you can use the Q&A links at the top to ask those questions. We'll actually be queuing them up and fielding them all at the end rather than trying to do them as we go through, just because there is a fair bit of stuff to cover here. And we don't want to end up going down rabbit holes halfway through with Q&A and robbing you of some of the really awesome stuff we've got towards the end. You might notice there's a bit of a strange picture there on the right-hand side. A big glass of whiskey with some ice cubes seems like a strange thing to feature at the top of a webinar about invoicing, particularly if you're joining us where it's early in the morning on whatever time zone you're in. And the reason for it is really the crescendo, or where we're aiming to get to with this upgrade, is to be able to free up anyone who has to do that important client billing stuff, so that you can go from what maybe used to take 4 days a month to do in terms of client billing before you had Accelo, but now it's still quite a pain in the neck. Maybe it takes you 4 hours to get all of your billing done. And we want to get it to a point where you can get your monthly client billing done in less time than it takes for the 4 ice cubes in this glass of whiskey here to melt. And some of the folks that we've been talking to about this module have seen that as a pretty cool challenge to see if they can down their glass of nice whiskey of their choice before they can get all their client invoices out. So look forward to hearing how you go on that front. All right, so let's dive in. The introduction, billing, as we all know, anyone who's in business knows that billing, invoicing, whatever you choose to call it, is one of the most important and often I think for most of us least enjoyable parts of running a successful business. And we know firsthand. I know when I first started Accelo, I'd been running a professional service business for a few years, and even though it's critical to get your invoices out so you can get paid and be rewarded financially for the great work you've done for clients, keep the wolves from the door in terms of keeping the bank balance topped up. The reality is that it's actually really not creative, not fun, not enjoyable to be going through the drudgery of invoicing and billing. Now, a product like Accelo that brings together clients, quotes, projects, tickets, retainers, timesheets, expenses, and materials all into one place really should make and can make invoicing your clients a whole lot easier. But with this new upgrade, as I mentioned with the whiskey glass metaphor, we want to make it even easier again. We even want to make it enjoyable. And so because the invoicing work, the active invoicing touches almost every part of Accelo, this upgrade is actually the culmination of a massive amount of work over the last 6 months. And we're really looking forward to showing it to you in this sneak peek and rolling it out for you in the weeks ahead. All right, so the first thing on our agenda is our service and material items, also known as a product catalog. This is the list of things that you do that you sell to your customers. So let's have a look at what we've got here. Now, great invoicing means keeping the accountants or the bookkeepers happy, but it also means having to deal with, frankly, pretty, unpleasant and often confusing if you're not a bookkeeper or an accountant. You probably got into the business because you're great at servicing your customers, and whether it's a designer or a consultant or a developer or architect or an engineer, that doesn't necessarily make you a natural born accountant or bookkeeper. And to keep the accountants happy requires you to know about things like, accounting codes or general ledger codes, tax line items, tax codes, all sorts of stuff. Because when you do your invoicing, you need to be able to make sure that it goes into your accounting package in a way that your bookkeepers can do their job, whether it means submitting reports to the IRS or any number of other sort of reporting agencies. And the problem is that we want you to be able to bill with confidence without having to know all of that stuff backwards all of the damn time. We don't want you to have to make mistakes. Now, another reason that we've introduced these service and material items is that increasingly Accelo users are selling products or materials, non-time things, alongside of their time-based services. So an example would be an audio-visual consulting company who goes around rigging up boardrooms at great expense for enterprise customers to be able to have something, approaching the holodeck from Star Trek with lots of cutting-edge gear. Now, their service is the knowledge about how to set it up and what to do, but the equipment that they deliver is key to what they do as well, and they need to be able to keep track of those products that they're delivering, those materials or service alongside of their services. Another reason that we've introduced these service and material items is that great operations means having insights into patterns over time. What services or products are your most profitable? Which ones are your least profitable? Which ones are you most successful with? And so by having an index or a list that links back to these guys, in the future we'll be able to create reports for you that give you those insights. So for those reasons and a whole bunch of others under the hood, we've introduced the items list into Accelo. You can think of it as a price list, and we break it into two parts. You might be able to see in the left of the screenshot here, we've got a materials list and a service list. You can actually rename materials to be products or equipment, or you can call it any word you like, whatever you fancy. You can rename that and have it make sense for your business. And what's cool is we'll actually synchronize your items list with Xero or QuickBooks. So if you've got those services connected, and that's where you happen to have created your item list, maybe even you've got inventory tracked in there, you'll be able to import that list of items into Accelo and be able to use it as you're going through in all of the other parts we'll cover today, like creating a quote, creating a project plan, and of course, doing your invoicing. So let's jump across quickly and see it together. I just need to change tabs here. All right, so this is a demo system that we're using. This is actually what our sort of engineers are doing a lot of their testing and development of. So this is probably going to break at 1 or 2 points during this demo, and that's to be expected. I just wanted to share it with you here as fresh as you like. Okay, so here's our material list. We can see the various materials that we've got built into our test data here. And we can see something like, for example, a Bluetooth keyboard. So I can click into edit that, and I can see that we've got a title for that, a description here, and then we can see our price that we charge per unit for revenue, or what we charge our customers, and then what our cost price is, or what we pay upstream. And then we can also see our account and ledger codes. So this is where that stuff that I was talking about, the ability to say, hey, this particular line item here, this particular material belongs to a category called equipment sales, or it might be resold from Ingram Micro or something like that in your accounting system. You can store those details here, and then anyone who's using Accelo to do their invoicing doesn't need to bother themselves about things like accounting and tax codes. They're able to just pick this from the list and have it take effect automatically. So we've got our material list, and we've also got the services list. And the services list also exists predominantly to help you pick from a list of services and then be able to identify the account and tax codes so that the people who are doing the work around billing don't have to know all the bookkeeping stuff. So your project managers can go through and create invoices with confidence, and you don't have to worry about them ending up getting your bookkeeper really offside. Okay. So that's the service and materials area. Let's have a look at what we got next. Okay, so the next thing is our new budget settings for quotes, projects, and templates. So one of the things that we've realized a bit of a shortcoming in Accelo for a while is that creating your project budgets, your quotes, templates, all that stuff is really, really important, and it's often been a bit confusing. It's been a bit confusing when different parts of the screen change, and it's it's a little bit like you need to to be able to completely describe the box before you can actually get out of the box, which is a little bit counterintuitive. And so what we've done is we've completely redesigned the interface, and we're also making full use of the items database that I just showed you. What's great about this is we've now got clearer options with rates, calculations, and budget values. And the same consistent templating interface applies across quotes, projects, and also the project and material templates, so you can pick those from lists. What's great about this as well is it really cleverly handles the way that a modern professional service business works, where you're not purely waterfall, you're not sort of sitting out and planning every single task that somebody's going to do in 8 weeks' time for 15 minutes and being super prescriptive because no plan survives contact with the enemy. But also recognizing that a fully agile approach, which requires a blank check to be really agile, doesn't really work in professional service businesses either, especially if the customer's not happy to write that blank check for you, which most of them aren't. So with this, what you're able to do is create your milestones and assign budgets to them, and then allow, from an agile perspective, the carving out of that time as people work on their projects or create their tasks, and you can see that take effect. So let's actually have a look at that together. So we'll come across here to find a project that I've got, playing around with the test project here. So we'll go into this project and we'll actually go through and we'll edit the project plan together. So I'm going to edit project plan. And so as you can see, as this loads up, we've got a series of these different milestones through here in the project. We can click on requirements, for example, and go across and see the new budget heading. We're able to see a list of our services, the milestone service, and it contains the rate choice. So you can choose, is it billable, yes or no? If you say no, a bunch of stuff disappears or grays out, because instead of saying how much is it going to be, you're just saying, okay, how many hours is it going to be? But in this case, we'll say the budget's yes, it's billable, yes, sorry. And then we can have a rate. So we come in and say, all right, we're going to have staff rates, which means that the junior person might be charged out at a different hourly rate than the senior person. Or you can have defined rates. We specify exactly what your rate is. You can choose it from a pick list, and then you can even override that amount of money with a particular hourly rate. You've got the ability to pick the services from the services list here, so you can link those things back again, and that gives you all of the benefits of those ledger and account codes. And then when we come across the middle column here, we're able to see the time entry. So we can either calculate, which is the rolling up of all the sub-milestones and sub-tasks, or we can define the number of hours set aside for this milestone. So here I'm saying, right, it's a 25-hour milestone. And while there aren't any subtasks yet, because we're in the planning phase, if we plan some in there, it would show us a list of those. And if we, as the project unfolds, staff members then create subtasks, they can carve that time out. So here we can see we've got $200 an hour, 25 hours, and then our budget by default is this calculated price here, which just uses obviously pretty basic multiplication. But if it turns out that this was something where you wanted to have a price that was maybe slightly under $5,000, you can create a defined price there. And so even though we show you the calculated one and make it easy to snap back if you want to, you're actually able to specify what you want your pricing to be. Down here, we can also see that we've got some materials. So you can put these materials, they come again from your material list. In this case, we're saying, hey, we've got a quantity of 4 licenses for this Contigo CMS, content management system, because this is to build a website. We've got a price we pay, which is $6,000 a license, a price we charge the customer, the revenue side, which is $7,500, and so we can see where those things are. And so that new interface makes it easier for you to go through, create your project plan, set your budgets, choose your service and material items from the effectively the product list or the price list, and then from there you'll be able to go in and do your billing. We'll come back to look at that. All right, let's look at the next thing, materials on tickets and retainers. So materials are those non-service entries that we've had on our projects that we were just showing. We've had those for a while, but we haven't done a great job of flowing those through onto tickets or retainers up until now. And that's been kind of irritating because if you're, someone who's a classic, let's say you're an IT consultant and you have a team of guys and girls who run around helping customers by fixing their computers when they break. Now, you're going to have a bunch of spare parts in that line of work. There's a bunch of things you're going to need to charge the customer for in addition to the time that you spend doing that stuff to help them out. And so now what you're able to do with this upgrade is be able to assign materials to your budget for both tickets and retainers. You'll also be able to choose from the item list, just like we saw before, modify your quantities and even change prices on a per ticket basis. And if you've got a ticket where you're putting the work or creating a material entry and you want it to flow through onto a retainer, then you can actually do it. So if you've got 20 tickets and that, 5 of them involves some new keyboards, and there was a couple that were whole new computers, and a couple that were, a replacement printer cartridge, all of those can then actually flow through onto a single monthly contract or service agreement, the retainer, and you can bill for them and kind of roll them all up together, which is pretty awesome. And with these materials, you can either invoice for them individually or on the bulk basis, which we'll cover towards the end. So let's have a really quick look at this. This is more one of those ones that the screenshot you can see elsewhere, probably most of the content anyway. Most of the work here is the under the hood stuff. But we can come across and see for this particular ticket here, we'll go to the materials section and we can see we've got a Bluetooth keyboard at a standard wired keyboard that we've included here, which is part of what we've included as our materials. And we can see invoice that hasn't been set yet. So the active invoice, like when we go through to bill later, you'll be able to see these appear as things that will be invoiced. All right. Now, this is where we start to get out of the plumbing, if you like, and start to bring things together. So let's have a look at our powerful new invoice templates. Now, with this new massive upgraded invoice system that we're implementing with Accelo, a lot of the stuff that we've taken on board over the time as feedback from customers has been, configuring and having more switches. So sometimes you want to bill customers for a percentage of the work. Sometimes you want to bill them for the remaining budget. Sometimes you just want to bill them for the work that was done before the start of this month or an arbitrary date. Other times you want to, say, okay, we want to have a whole bunch of detail in our layout. We want to have, rates and quantities and other information showing in your columns. But then different times you might want to show a very small amount of information because the customer doesn't need all that detail, and it's just going to, potentially have them starting to try and, pick at it and say, oh, well, actually we should, bill for this or bill for that. And so this is how we've accommodated it, because we didn't want to make, obviously there's a trade-off where you want to have lots of options, but that could mean that every time you create an invoice, you've actually got to navigate through a mountain of checkboxes or options just to be able to send a bill to a customer. And so the way that we've addressed that is we've given you the ability to create templates. So with these templates, you're able to set out the bells and whistles you want with all of the control of the world. And then for, whether it's yourself or your colleagues, when they go through to do their regular billing, they can choose one of these templates and will automatically select what columns to show, how to group things together. All of those details will automatically handle for you. So let's have a look at this together now. We'll come across here. This is another one of those administrative features. It's working for me. Demo content is always a risk. Okay, so we'll come in here, and this is under the billing section of configs, and there's a new one now called Invoice Template List. And what this contains will be a list of all of the different templates you have for invoicing. So I'll just pick on this one here, the detailed invoice with rates. And what this allows me to do is set some preferences. Remember, these are template preferences, not hard and fast rules. So you can override these on a case-by-case basis. But this is the idea, is to say, right, I'm going to provide a detailed invoice with rates. So there's stuff at the top like the default payment term and some customer notes and internal notes. We've got things like the way that we approach projects. What do we want to do by default? Well, actually, let's do a percentage budget on projects. Let's bill, 50%. So maybe you could call this one, instead of, if you were doing it, you wouldn't maybe call it detailed invoice with rates. You might call it project deposit, and you specify what your standard project deposit is. We've then got the ability to choose on projects what level of detail to provide. So do you want to invoice just one line item for the whole project, milestone level detail, or even milestones and tasks? We'll leave it at the milestones one. Do you want to mark which work do you want to have come in here? So do you want to have all of the work? Do you want to grab the stuff that was just from the first day of this month? So basically last month and before's work, or work before today, or all work from all time? And how do you want to handle the grouping of information? Do you want to group or itemize information based on, the staff member or other details to that effect? There's also the rules around the tickets or issues. Contract periods that are prepaid, they have slightly different rules than contract periods that are postpaid, where you're billing for the work after the fact. And then there's also some details around, do you want to include materials and expenses? Do you want to provide the activities in the customer invoice? Now, speaking of the invoice, one of the things we're doing with this upgrade, and we'll talk about it in a couple of minutes, is the ability to send, or actually it's not just the ability, we will now always be storing and sending invoices where you elect to send them. We'll always be sending them out as PDF attachments on emails. So use an example of the template email, and you've got a whole series of merge fields you can use. Put invoice numbers, subjects, company details, who the owner is, the created date, etc. All of those fields can go here into the invoice body or the subject, and then the PDF file will be attached to that email, so you can customize this to look the part. And each of these can be different content depending on which template you choose. So let's have a look at how this will look in PDF format. So what we've got here is an editing environment which takes the information we provided and then shows you on the right-hand side what it will look like. Now, what's great about this is that this is mostly all free text fields. So, for example, we could have this section here, we love our clients. I can make that bold. I could put it in italics or make it a larger size if I want to. We love our clients. If you love us, tweet us at Accelo, for example. And I can even make that a hyperlink that goes off to wrong link. We can make that a hyperlink that goes off to Twitter, for example. So all of these details here in square brackets are all merge fields, so you've got a lot of control over how your invoice is laid out and the content you have. And then we can see that we've got our blocks here for services, materials, and expenses. So let's say for services, even though we now, and we'll talk about this a bit more, have quantity and unit prices, let's say we don't want to provide that to customers. Let's say we just want to show them tax and total amount. We don't want to show all of the rate per hour and number of hours. And we can then also change those details on a material basis, expenses. We can include a payments link to be able to come through and pay by credit card into Accelo. And we can also choose with the activities area, which is really, really cool. That's this section here, work detail. How much information do we provide to the customer recipient? So do we want to group them in any way? Yes, we want to group them by staff member. So we'll have the person's name sitting up here. And then we can say, okay, what do we want to have? The medium or the icon, so phone calls, emails, notes. What subjects? Do we want to show the subject? Sorry. We could also show in here things like the body. So if you want to show the full text of the work you've done, obviously with magic like automatic email capture, that could get quite long, but some of our users have really asked for it because they want to be able to go to their clients with a really, extensive, well-documented invoice and say, see all this good stuff we did for you, please pay us. So yeah, lots of stuff we can modify here, ons and offs, and then you're able to go through and create that invoice template. So that's the invoice templating system. There will be a default invoice template that rolls out as part of the upgrade, but you'll be able to modify the default as well as create arbitrary numbers of invoice templates. All right. Quantities and rates. So I sort of stole my own thunder here a little bit because I showed that to you in the last screens. But this is an oversight from way back in version 1 of Accelo back in 2011 when we were out there in beta. With such a strong focus on services, we honestly have done a poor job all of our history in handling rates and quantities, which we're fixing now. So now you'll be able to specify in invoices the quantity, such as hours for services and more generally for materials, on a per line item basis. You'll also be able to specify the rate. So if it's a service, it's going to be a rate per hour. If it's a material, it's going to be a rate per material or product that you sell. And you'll also be able to apply those to expenses. And you'll be able to see the quantity and rate transferred across into your accounting package, which can be handled for some of the accounting package level reporting, but potentially even inventory tracking. Inventory tracking is not our world, but if you've got something where an invoice comes across and it says it's got 6 of this particular item, and your accounting system supports then reducing that from the inventory, then that can be handy for you. We're also doing some smart rate calculations. So if you group a whole bunch of different rates together, or you've got staff members who log their rates at different hourly rates because someone's junior, someone's senior, we'll automatically blend those rates together when you merge or roll up your project into different subtitles or subsections. Right. Now, we also mentioned previously, or I gave you a bit of a look at the Invoices as PDFs. So as we saw on the screen before, this is a case of also we wish we'd done this differently. All invoices will now be sent as PDF attachments to emails. The original approach we had of just putting in I guess the HTML format of an email and hoping that it wouldn't get all munged up when the person you send the invoice to forwards it across the accounts department with, yeah, I approve this, which then gets forwarded across to the bookkeeper to do the data entry. There's no big surprise that that's a bit of a mess. So with this new approach, we're going to be sending quite, generally plain and non-offensive email formats, which will be great for making sure they get into the inbox of your recipients. And of course, attaching the PDF file to those emails. You'll be able to have a lot more control, as we saw in the editing screen before, around things like the body content, whether you want to have terms and conditions, other details down the bottom. You can really, really go crazy. And as mentioned, you're also able to put in detailed logs of activities. So you've got a lot more of that justification type stuff that you can put in an activity, in an invoice for your customers. All right, we're closing in. We're almost there now. So the next thing I wanted to show you is actually how the Create Invoice screen comes together. And this is the ability to configure these details and options on your invoices. So bring it all together. You'll be able to come into something like a project or an issue or a retainer. You'll be able to choose to invoice for that work. And then from that screen, you'll be able to choose a template and see all of the options automatically come together straight away. So if you're choosing that you want to get the work done from the start of the, sort of only last month and before work with, 30-day payment terms rolled up by project, you'll be able to choose that from when you choose a template, I should say, it will then automatically apply all of those details. On the screen, you'll also be able to choose whether you want to bill for percentage of budget or remaining budget, or maybe it's just the work done. Really, really easily. You'll even be able to bill for excess and unbilled periods on retainers. So you can have one line item, which is next month's bill for the baseline retainer or inclusion. And then also here's the previous month's expenses and materials, as well as any excess. So let's actually go and have a look at it. Let's come in here. I'm going to come back across to that project I was just looking at. And I'm going to come in and look at how that looks to invoice. So I come in here, I choose create and invoice. And this is how the new screen looks. So I'll come in and say that I want to build detailed invoice with rates. So it's automatically updated. I've got my automatic description and notes. I've got my automatic due dates or terms fields here. We can see what the budget was for that project, how much we've invoiced already, how much is remaining. You can see I've been doing some test work with this guy. We can, invoice for a percentage of budget. So that's my 25% there. You can choose a default service item. As you hover over each item, you'll see on the right-hand side the amounts that you previously invoiced, what ledger codes and account codes it thinks you should be. And then further down, you'll be able to see all of the materials and expenses, in this case, doing some dummy test work, so nothing to see there. And then once you've done that information, you can hit preview the PDF. Oh, I always do that. In these demos. And so now I can see this with an actual, customer record, actual details in here. And even some dummy content that I put in earlier for my template, messing around with that. So yeah, lots of power, much cleaner, less clunky than the current invoice creation screen. And with the ability to use templates, we're able to, frankly, kind of hide away or unscare people from the configuration options that might otherwise be seen as a little bit too intimidating. All right, we're almost there. All right, so this is the capstone. This is bringing it all together now. So what we've got is, what we've heard from our users, I should say, let's start with that, is Accelo has done a reasonable job, particularly with these new invoice screens to make it more powerful with templates, at helping with, milestone or phase-based billing, where you're saying, hey, we've got, a project that we have just done a key deliverable for, and so therefore we want to be able to go in and bill for that 20% mark or the 50% mark or whatever it is. But we've done a pretty bad job of making it easy for you to go through and bill all of the customers for the work you did in the last month, where that billing is more based on what did we do last month, and let's get paid for that work and try and cover the fact that we're already, we've paid our staff's payroll already, and do that in a much more streamlined fashion. And so this is really where all of that comes together. So the way the new bulk invoicing wizard is going to work is you'll be able to choose which clients to bill based on filters, finding the ones with, say, active projects or tickets that have been resolved but haven't had their invoices created yet. You'll be able to send each client a single invoice for all of your recent work. So you'll be able to have a couple of projects and a bunch of tickets and maybe a couple of retainers all on the same invoice, which is good for paperwork. It's good for keeping your customers happy. So instead of them getting 8 different invoices like they might be getting from you now for 3 different projects, 4 tickets and a retainer, and some of them might actually be small amounts of money, so this invaluable customer feels like you're nickel and diming them a bit. This way you'll be able to create one really nicely itemized invoice and get that across to that customer for all the work you've done for them. We use all the same things that we've shown you before, like templates, rates, quantity. So we've got consistency and power built into this. And the idea, this is really the ambition and what we set out to do as a team, was to be able to do your monthly billing in less time than it takes you to drink a nice glass of whiskey on the rocks, or at the very least for the rocks to turn into water. So let's have a look at it together. We'll come back to that. So we'll come in here. It's got called company billing at the moment. And so with this section, you're able to come through on the filters on the left and choose what you want to include. So in this case, I'm going to include any projects that have got time built into them here. And I'm going to say all activities. I could choose the ones that were just logged last month, for example, or previously. So it's quite powerful like that. I can choose that I want to include all expenses rather than just the sort of approved ones. Materials and budget can live there as well. I'm actually going to take this statuses here and I'm going to add the open status. Normally, we only include tickets with a status of resolved or closed under the hood because we figure you're still working on them. But you can, of course, override those things, ticket classes, etc. And similarly, I'm just going to include all activities, not just the ones that have been approved. And so let me run those filters for now. We could spend all day going at things. And so now we can see pretty quickly that we've got one company here who's got 2 projects and 3 tickets that you want to bill for. Now, if you had 20 of them, they would all be listed down the screen here. And you'd be able to go through and turn on or off with this include toggle, the ability to invoice for those objects of that particular type, which can be really helpful because if you've got a customer that you're a bit late delivering a project on and the last thing you want to do is antagonize them by sending them project invoices, you could just turn that off, for example. And you'll still be able to come back and get that work later because it hasn't been built yet. So let's just go with the one company we've got and show you what the screen looks like. So we're going to come in here and we're able to see that we've got this one client contact here, Andy Richard. He's at Ararat Enterprises. He's got an issue, for example, and we're going to bill him by default here $187.50. And if we want to see what that is, we can click in here and see, oh, okay, it was 3/4 of an hour at that hourly rate. That's how that comes together. Okay, cool, fair enough. Further down, we can say, okay, we're going to send an invoice to Herb as well for some work here, some issue work for Dane, and then Jackie here. Jackie's actually got a couple of projects, the website upgrade and the bug issue. So because Jackie's got a couple of things actually grouped together, and Jackie will get one invoice that has a project and an issue built into it there. And of course, you can click in and see the extra details for that project, see what we've got in terms of Jackie's expectations and grouping things intelligently. And as I mentioned, you're able to choose your templates here and have those take effect and the magic percentages kick in. So if you can imagine, you come in here, really first day of the month, and you come into this screen and you find everybody who's got some work that you did for them in the month before. You'll then get all of those customers. You choose the ones you want. You can actually see a list here. At the moment, it's just the one. But down at the bottom left, you might be able to see there's sort of like the one company there. If you've got 10 of them, it'll be a 10 list long. You can skip forward, skip back. And then once you're done with each company, you hit create or create and send email, or skip if you don't want to touch them now. The progress bar will update, and we will create the invoices in PDF format, send them off. So the idea really is you'll be able to go through that process, pulling in all of the threads from all over Accelo to create an invoice really quickly and easily for your clients. All right, so let's talk about when we'll be releasing this. In terms of the weeks, over the next few weeks, we're still working hard on development and internal QA at the moment. What I showed you today, as mentioned, was a development rig. There's a bunch of stuff that we still need to polish off that we've got a list of that we're working through. And what we're looking to do over the next 2 weeks after that is open up a limited beta. If you're interested in being part of the beta, please email beta@accelo.com. It'll be a sandbox beta rather than an early upgrade. The changes we've made to the invoicing are very fundamental to the way Accelo works. So we can't really just flick it across and you can use a new shinier coat of paint, but still go back to the old version, if you like, and continue. So we'll be doing that as a sandbox that you can play around with. It won't be connected to your mainline data. Anything you mess around with there will end up, sort of getting abandoned. But it's a great opportunity if you do want to be a beta tester to join the program, and just send that email across to beta@accelo.com. And we're targeting August 13th on a weekend for our release date. The advantage of that date is it's the middle of the month. So it means that anyone who's got their July billing to get sorted has had plenty of time to get that sorted out and address, without changes. And it also means that if we've got unexpected data issues with this upgrade, obviously you're going to be working hard internally through the beta period to squash bugs. But there could be some historical data that doesn't quite line up right, or other issues that come up. So that gives us a couple of weeks to address those before the end of August, when obviously, people will be wanting to go through and do their billing in anger for all of their August work. So that's what we're working on. That's how it's coming together. It's been a really, long running project here. Pretty much all of 2016, this has been an important project for our engineering team. And as you can probably appreciate from the length of this demo, there's a lot of stuff under the hood there that's had to change to make things, ironically, a heck of a lot easier and more streamlined on a day-to-day basis. And so now's probably a good time to open things up to questions and answers. But if you're someone who does want to drop off now, thanks so much for coming along, and really appreciate your time. And if you've got any questions, please send them through to beta@accelo.com, or after the launch, of course, email them through to support@accelo.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.